Well, hello and welcome to episode 277 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And 85 years ago, 85 years ago,
'85.
a little movie came out, and at the time it was misunderstood, it was malaligned, it was praised, it was loathed, it was unable to be advertised in certain newspapers for some sort of reason that we'll probably talk about. Fast forward to today, 85 years later, there is a film that is, you know, constantly reaffirmed as one of the great films of all time, but misunderstood and maligned, and people still don't know what to make of it. Some people absolutely love this thing as a work of true art. Some people do not understand the hype. But today we only have one thing to say, and that's Rosebud.
Rosebud. Indeed. Indeed, Brian. Um, yeah, we're talking about Citizen Kane, which is kind of crazy that we've been podcasting for almost 6 years now, five and a half at least,
Yep.
and have not covered this film. And I think it's probably good in a way because we're gonna.
Wait,
I
the
mean, I
movie or the
no no
podcast
no no
or
no no
our
no no.
decision to wait
Our decision to
276
wait.
weeks to do
I
it?
think I think it was good that we waited because I feel like I'm totally gonna screw this up. But I think if anybody took a film class at any point in time, there's at least
Mm-hmm,
one or
mm-hmm,
two
mm-hmm.
scenes that even if you've not seen the whole thing, you can see like these scenes that have, you know, been tipped off as some of the greatest like monumental moments of cinematic history. And it's 85, which means it's older than my dad. I mean, this is a really old film. This
It's
is,
a really,
and it's
it's a really old film.
amazing
Yeah.
how it's still routinely on like the top 10 of like the 100 best movies of all time. It might not be number one for everyone, but certainly it's a cinematic achievement for sure. And I'm so crazy about the fact that we're doing it now because I think that maybe we can talk about it as if we know a little bit about films. I don't know, maybe.
Maybe, but we did get to see it on the big screen this week. Thank you, Fathom Entertainment, for bringing that out for the 85th anniversary. So that was nice. We'll be talking about that as well. So let's do this, Michaela. We need to mix up a cocktail. We need to steel our resolve to get in here and to talk about one of the greatest films of them all. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and grab some vodka. We'll grab some triple sec, a dash of rose water, which will be fitting for our cocktail. We'll be right back to mix this week's up.
So, Brian, I decided in my infinite wisdom that I would not make a cocktail up, that I would go and scour the internet, which was not hard to do because 85 years is a really long time. And I
It's a long
knew
time.
that
Hmm.
there was a
Hmm.
cocktail out there. And sure enough, there was a cocktail named the Rosebud. And this is it.
This is it. Yeah, the
This is
Rosebud.
it.
Easy
Um,
enough. Yeah, the
it,
movie begins with Rosebud. Yeah, it begins with Rosebud. It ends with Rosebud. You find out what it is. Spoiler warning, there
Spoiler
for
warning.
everyone out there. But you're going to need a Rosebud to get there. I feel like Rosebud is one of those things that if you know, you know. But if you don't know, you still probably know. You've still probably heard someone mention Rosebud as this, kind of insight into one of the great films of all time. So of course that's what we're doing for the cocktail today. It's pretty simple to put together. You are going to need a little bit of rose water. So we'll talk about that here after we mix up the cocktail. So into a shaker tank goes 1.5 ounces of vodka, 3/4 of an ounce of triple sec, 3/4 of an ounce of freshly squeezed lime juice, a quarter of an ounce of simple syrup, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, and 1 dash of that rose water. Go ahead and shake that up. You want it to, it's going to froth just a little bit, kind of from that triple sec. It's going to give it a nice viscosity in there, and then strain it into a very, very well chilled coupe glass or martini glass. You could use a champagne flute, which is what I think Michaela used on hers. Maybe because that was the best thing to drink it out of, but probably because it has roses on it, is my guess. So go ahead, sip and enjoy. You can garnish this a couple of ways. You can use some cucumber. That definitely hits on these notes. That's delicious. You can garnish it with some mint, which I don't like quite as much because I think it overpowers the aroma of the rose water. You could do just a little bit of beautiful sea salt on there. You could do some rose petals, whatever you want. Dealer's choice. But go ahead and sip and enjoy this, and take in the magic that is Citizen Kane.
Take in the magic that is Citizen Kane. Um, a couple of words of to the wise about this. When we say a dash of rose water, we mean a dash. Like we mean
Yeah,
like
like an
if you
eyedropper,
don't
one
have
drop.
Right, right. So here's the thing. I found some rose water. If you can make it, you can look that up. But if you're not that bougie, you can go find it somewhere.
If you have an
That's totally
incredible amount
fine.
of time and energy to make your own rose water, then go for it. But
And I don't know, like 60,000 roses to make like 1 ounce. But anyway, if you're gonna put this in a bottle that's like a spray bottle, like you can just spray the glass even with it, or
mhm,
spray
yep.
the inside of the shaker tin with it. Do not put too much, or else it's gonna smell and taste like really grandma-ish, and that's not the vibe. That's not what we're
Mhm,
supposed to be doing.
right.
Um, so I found this to be really like sumptuous. I really liked the simplicity of it because it's just a few ingredients. I love the idea of the Angostura bitterness, like the tartness mixed with this like floral, like super rich floral aroma from the rose water. I thought this was
Mhm,
really lovely. I do agree. I don't think I would put it in a champagne flute again. I think I would probably do a coupe, but I
mhm.
had these really beautiful rose tipped, champagne flutes that I had to show off
How to
again.
use?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yes. So, um, and the fact that it's really cold, you might want to make sure that your glass is real chilled because it if it gets a little warm at all, it's gonna kind of, I don't know, the flavors seem to muddle a little bit. And so,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to drink this ice cold for sure. I think it gets a little syrupy with that much triple
mm,
sec in there.
mhm.
Use something nicer like a Cointreau or Grand Marnier, probably instead of a lower budget end triple sec, especially because what we're making here is more or less like a rose tinted orangish martini kind of a thing. If you wanted to, you could swap out the vodka for gin. I think that would work out really well. You could do that, probably skip the bitters then because the gin's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting there in terms of the bitters. But yeah, literally one dash of rose water. Go ahead and buy it online. It's going to last you for a long time. And yeah, Mister is a really good way to do it. Think of just kind of like washing like the glass or something with it, right? Just a little spritz in there is going to be a perfect amount. This cocktail is really good. It's classic. It's clean. It's lovely. It's beautiful. It gets a little bit of that rose aromatic there on the nose. It has kind of a nice orangish like backbone to it without being too orangey. No orange
Hmm.
juice here. It's just kind of some notes of that. So it's really delicate. It's really subtle, which is not at all how Citizen Kane is, which is not subtle in a lot of its allegory here. We'll talk about that as we get into the movie. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll mix up another rosebud and cocktail. We'll drop our snow globe and we'll get into this week's film, Citizen Kane.
Spoiler warning for Citizen Kane. If you've not seen this film, you've had 85 years and probably 1,000 references to the big reveal at the end. We're going to spoil it for you. We're going to talk about it. You probably already know what it is, but we're going to talk about the symbolism and all of that in this episode of Drink the Movie. So, if you want that moment to be pristine for you yourself and you've not seen Citizen Kane, I beg you to stop this recording. Stop listening. Go make yourself a rosebud. Go watch the movie because it's going to be way better than us talking about it. And then you can come back and we can talk about all the things. Okay? All right? You've been warned. I'm spoiler warning. I'm not going to be responsible for ruining one of the best films of all time. All right.
Spo-
Thank you.
spoiler warning. Indeed, even if you haven't seen Citizen Kane, you might know kind of the beats of it there, the rosebud of all of it. But it's definitely worth seeing just for seeing its sake, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. This was released in 1941. It was directed by and stars Orson Welles as Citizen Kane. Of course, there are some other people that are in this that we'll probably make mention of as we kind of talk about the movie itself. When this came out, people couldn't really seem to make heads or tails of it. Some people loved it, some people loathed it, some people didn't understand all the big to do about it. Some people were like, Orson Welles, that's a radio guy. Why is he making a movie? But critics seem to be on board board with it because it was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Orson Welles, and Best Director for Orson Welles, Best Black and White Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Best Sound, Best Editing, and Best Music. It does win one Academy Award here for Original Screenplay for Herman J. Mankiewicz and Orson Welles, who co-wrote the script. And depending on which one of those two gentlemen you were to ask, they will each take different amounts of credit for writing the screenplay. I really want to go back and rewatch Mank, just coming off of seeing this, because I hadn't seen this movie in about 25 years and I'd almost completely forgot about it. But we were reminded about it by Leonard Maltin because we just saw Citizen Kane at the movie theater. It was a Fathom production. And one of my favorite parts about seeing like the movie, like the Fathom event things that we go and see on anniversaries and stuff like that, Leonard Maltin almost always kind of introduces these films and gives you a little bit of like historical context. Leonard Maltin is a national treasure, and I almost completely forgot about that. And he mentioned that Gary Oldman plays Mankiewicz there in that film, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what that was about. I should go back and rewatch this now that I have seen it, because I hadn't seen this movie in quite a long time, since about my college days, which you made mention of.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, Same. I remember seeing scenes of this at least. I don't think I watched the whole thing. Maybe I did watch the whole thing in Mrs. Whitus's communication and film class. Shout out to you, Heidi. You were amazing. But this film, when I saw it, then I was like 18, maybe 19 years old, and I
Hmm.
had
Hmm.
no frame of reference. So it was like, okay, you're telling me that this is a great film. Fine. But I don't get it. I think all right. Like I didn't have any life behind me, or really um any idea of like what makes a great film a film, other than my own limited experience at that point. So I think it was lost on me until we watched it together in the theater this week. So yeah, thank you so much to Fathom for bringing out not just this film, but a bunch of older films that may have been forgotten, or just overlooked by people in this kind of day and age, because it's really important that we see where all the great films that we have today come from. And I guarantee if there's a film that you love today, it's probably gotten some sort of inspiration by at least one or two films that got inspiration from Citizen Kane.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely, it did. And I want to circle back to that here because I don't think that we could probably do Citizen Kane any justice in terms of like talking about the movie. So I was just going to hit kind of these quick kind of bullet points about the movie to kind of carry us through the story, because one of the interesting things about Citizen Kane is it was one of, I don't know if it was the first, but it was definitely one of the first, especially in like a mainstream movie that is told a little bit in a non-linear kind of fashion, right? The movie
Hmm.
begins with Citizen Kane's death there, his Xanadu complex mansion that he's built for himself, right? This tropical paradise that he's built for himself. So it kind of starts with that, and we hear him, mutter the words "Rosebud" as he dies, and then what happens then is we're going kind of on a journey with Jerry Thompson, who's played by William Holland, to discover the meaning of Rosebud. Right? I really like kind of. The way they break it down here by this like news on the march or whatever it is, like this newsreel
Hmm.
thing, and they're like, well, everyone like knows who he is, and they either like loved him or hated him, and that's not that big of a deal, but you can tell a lot about a man by like what he says on his deathbed. And Rosebud was confirmed to be the last thing that he said, so it really is tracking down of what Rosebud is. So then he goes and kind of interviews these different people that have been in Citizen Kane's life, to retell the story, right from his boyhood being, separated from his parents to go live in the big city, becomes this media mogul, and continues to buy more and more into himself, into his hype, and into his power of persuasion and power in there, until he's basically annexed himself at this Xanadu palace that he has built for himself. Still no one knows what Rosebud is, and then it is gone forever. We'll probably make mention of what Rosebud is here at some point in the movie or in the episode. So if you don't want to know, I guess we'll give you a warning before we get there. So that's kind of the main crux of the film. It's really just an examination of the people that were the new Citizen Kane in life as a way to retell his story. So we went and saw this at the movie theater the other night, Michaela, and one of the interesting things, I'd never seen it in the movie theater. I think you probably have not either. Just watching it at home on video and stuff. It's very different seeing it on the big screen because you can really take in kind of the magnitude of what was being shot, the way they're using light and stuff like that. But the entire time I'm watching this movie, one half of my brain is like focused on what's going on in the movie because it's so impressive for 1941 and to think about this being the birth of all of this thing. But the other half of my brain is like trying to iron out like the exact almost like scene for scene like references and homages and the way other films are centered and shot and lit and all presented like in every way every movie like I've ever seen is running through the other half of my brain.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to me because if you don't pay attention to the fact that this was 85 years ago, you might look at this and be like, okay, I mean, this is a good story. There's a great telling at the end. It kind of comes full circle. Okay. But what you don't understand is that this was done 85 years ago. And so there
Mhm.
is no CGI. There is no special effects really. Like the makeup is amazing. The makeup is in black and white. Like the fact that you have Orson Welles go from this 25-year-old person to 70 years old and he looks amazing and realistic in all of that given the constrictions, right, that you had at the time. We this was way before like all of the things that make makeup and hair today what it is, right?
Mhm.
But also like some of these shots you probably wouldn't be really impressed with today if you saw them. There's a scene that where they're sitting at a desk, they're standing at a desk, and Orson Welles' character walks all the way to the edge of the back of the room, and you see these big windows that look like they looked big, but you have no idea the depth and like um, scale of these windows until he's all the way to the end of this
Mhm.
room. And I have no idea how they did that. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, and that's just one example, but like, I agree with you. Half of the film was I was trying to like pay attention to the things that were happening, but the other piece is like all of the things that this inspired by the shots and the decisions that they made from a cinematography perspective. We haven't even started talking about the score, but like there's so many decisions that were made and
Mhm.
ways that this was crafted that just blow my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said you'd see shots like this today and you wouldn't think that much about them or think that they were that special, but I disagree in that I think that you would think that they were special. But it's even more special knowing that someone had kind of this, original idea, and it does play a lot with size and scale and scope. My favorite one of those is when we get to Xanadu kind of later on in Citizen Kane's life. His new wife, her name is Susan
Who's she?
Alexander Kane,
Yeah.
played by Dorothy Common is there like doing like this puzzle. It's like the most elaborate puzzle of all time. If you're a fan of doing puzzles, and check out Citizen Kane's puzzles because that thing was a thing of beauty. But she's there kind of in the foreground, and there's this big, and I mean, you can tell that it's a big, huge fireplace, but you can't tell like how big and huge it is until Orson Welles like walks in front of it, and it like engulfs like his entire frame within the mouth of this fireplace. That stuff is really spectacular. And I mean, there's a bunch of shots that are in this thing that are amazing. Kind of the big like keynote one is there's a sign. It's like this neon sign on top of this like jazz club, and the camera goes through the sign. Which I don't know if that had ever been done before, but I would love to see like the rig that they had to build to be able to like get that sign to like move out of the way of this giant camera to come through it.
Hmm.
And it's actually so impressive that they use the same shot twice in the film. And the second time is really neat because it pulls back out of it. And I don't know
Yep.
if it's just they reversed the shots or if they actually pulled it back out of it. I don't know how they did that. I would have loved to have been the fly on the wall there. And then you get a lot of, especially Citizen Kane was doing like his political stuff, and you'll see him like up at like the pulpit, like speaking, and he'll look like he's about 80 feet tall. And I guess the way they would do that is they would like literally dig a hole to put the camera down in, so the distance between the lens of the camera and the top of Orson Welles was as far as possible. So stuff like that is amazing. The lighting is really impressive, the way that it's done. And if you have a friend who really loves movies, they're probably going to tell you that Citizen Kane is the best film of all time. And if you have two friends that think the movies are the bee's knees, your other friend is probably going to say that The Godfather Part 2 is the best film of all time. Maybe they'll have a little movie nerd fight about it, but just know that the entire way that uh, Coppola like framed and shot The Godfather and really all of his films is in direct correlation to the framing work that Orson Welles did here. As a 24-year-old doing this, I don't know how old Coppola was when he made Godfather. He was also pretty young, but definitely direct homage and comparisons can be made for the way that those films look.
So you heard it first here on Drink the Movies that Megalopolis is now in the same realm as Citizen Kane. Oh gosh, I
well,
can't wait to
well, that's
tell.
true.
Listener
I,
Anthony, are you hearing this? All
I
right.
mean,
Um,
I mean, in the fact that it's a movie that came out in the last 85 years, that is true. But yeah, I mean, definitely, you have to say that that Coppola looked at this and that I love the way that the like set dressing and set design is like so bananas. Like I don't know what like the budget I guess Leonard Maltin said was basically infinite for Orson Welles. They're like here's a blank check, go do whatever you want, and he did do that. And I don't think it probably ever regained any of that money. I don't think that that's true, but I there it had to have been like millions and millions of dollars of just prop pieces just set up in these different offices and rooms.
oh yeah. Well, and the detail when we see some of the action that happens, right? So there's a scene where Kane is um, losing his temper and he's like going nuts in his
Hmm.
wife's room, right? And he's throwing things and actually it looks like he's hurting himself because he's like
Oh
tripping
yeah.
over crap. He's pulling stuff off walls. He's like literally breaking things right there. And you know, you're almost worried that he's going to fall and like hurt himself and that's kind of plays into his death, you know,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
you know at the end. And then, you know, you have that shot that moves over and like it's super pristine, this little snow globe, right? Which plays a big part at the end of the film, and you
Hmm.
see him hold it at the beginning when he says Rosebud and he drops it. But like the symbolism there. Some of these scenes, just the way in which they were like the way the movement happened within the scene itself was really special. There's a scene when Kane gets he gets a letter from one of his old friends, and the way that it's shot when he opens the letter and outpours like this snow kind of
Hmm.
stuff
Hmm.
because it's a paper that's been ripped up and then pulls out this other sheet of paper from the beginning of the film. That scene is amazing because of the way that the camera just kind of moves back and forth. And again, I don't know if this was the first film to ever do that, but every time we've seen a great reveal from an envelope, that movement
Hmm.
has been mimicked. I guarantee it. And so I don't know. I mean, I think too, I want to talk about the score because the score is insane. I feel like it was almost too much in some instances. Like when I think about when this film came out, and it was right when we were moving to color, right? It's right when
Hmm.
we're moving to more talking, like talking films were a thing, right? But it's like I feel like sometimes it was so overwhelming, especially at the end when you have this like big reveal of what Rosebud is and how it's what the fact that like we know as the audience, but no one kind of puts it together at the end. Like it's
Hmm.
crazy. And then you have these really booming, like sweeping strings and like these giant drums. I mean, I'm not a musician at all, but like I just felt my whole body kind of just like reverberate with the knowledge that we had and like the fact that like this guy died and no one really knew who he was.
Hmm.
And that through the sound. I mean, the shots were amazing too, but like because you see the smoke come up from the top of Xanadu, and then you see this like no trespassing sign, but the reverberations of the score is just haunting and huge, and it was amazing. It was so cool. I cannot say enough. I'm glad it was. I don't know what won that year, but
You
I
you can
probably haven't seen that one, so I don't know.
you can take some solace. So The Devil and Daniel Webster wins for best music scoring of a dramatic picture this year, but take some solace in the fact that Bernard Herrmann did the score for both of those films. So
Okay.
he still
Okay.
won
Well,
at
good on
the
you,
end of the day.
Bernie, because
Uh,
you did a great
and
job.
and I love that. And it was made mention kind of in the lead up that this was an RKO pictures production, but RKO was a radio station first and foremost, right? So all these people were coming in from a radio background, and you can't tell your story visually on the radio, obviously. So you're using those big kind of scores, those big music points and things like that. And apparently Orson Welles was really hands on with the way that this sounded, and gets nominated for best sound design and here for the best score as well. So that makes sense. I love one of my favorite kind of aspects of this movie, rewatching it here all these years later, because I think that the first time I would have seen this, obviously, kind of as a kid in college, I was just in like a like introduction to film class or whatever it was that I watched it in, and seeing it for the first time, you don't have any sort of appreciation for it beyond the fact that somewhere someone in your life has probably told you that this is the best movie of all time, or you've seen it on a list or something like that. So you don't really have any sort of appreciation for it. So going back to rewatch it, knowing kind of the content of the film, when it opens kind of with that, and it's like this like newsreel of like Xanadu, and it's all of like these like images of like the size and scope and scale of Xanadu, and it's all like dilapidated, but there's like a zoo, there's like a swimming pool, there's like a golf course, and I don't know if those were all done like as like matte paintings that they were done. Like the zoo one had like actual like real monkeys in it, so I don't know if those were like sets that they had built or things that they kind of after the fact basically shot the film, then spilled a cup of coffee on it to get kind of that discoloration of that stuff. But it's so like breathtaking, and kind of the non sequential storytelling here is really powerful in that stance. Like I said, because it bookends, it starts and ends with Rosebud there, but showing kind of the fall of this Rome that Citizen Kane built to start the movie is so fascinating to me, because if you go on to Netflix and turn on any movie or series right now, it's going to start with how the thing ends, because we don't have any sort of attention span to do it. We need to know how things end right away, because we need to be hooked, because our attention span is only for about 6 seconds. But to do it in that way, as like this storytelling mechanic, is it was really interesting. It's really like it would be like fascinating to talk to Orson Welles about it and be like, why did you decide to tell it this way? And I'm sure someone smarter than me did that at some point, but it's such an interesting like decision for 1941.
Yeah. And again, it's the simplicity of it that we feel it is now. I mean, that's I think that's probably where I the point that I was trying to make earlier is that if I showed this to my kid, I mean, he's 11, but if I showed this to a 20-year-old today and said this is an amazing film, I think they would be like, yeah, this is great, but I don't see why it's so great. And
Mm-hmm.
it's because we have seen so much of this already in a way. So it's like I don't know, it's like yes, of course the bread is sliced. What do you mean we had hundreds of years where we didn't have sliced bread, or
Mm-hmm.
something
Right.
like that, right? Um growing up watching films that have taken their cue from this and calling those some of the greatest films of all time. This is like the granddaddy of the greatest films, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right. I mean, it's I've done a little bit of research, not tons, but they did a lot of shooting on the RKO soundstage, but they did do some shots at the zoo. That's probably where they got the monkey shot, because
Mm-hmm.
you're right. I mean, the beginning where you see these dilapidated pieces, um, I don't know how that would even look if they tried to colorize it. Now, I've never seen a colorized version of this, and probably by design. There was a ton of there was a period of time where all the 40s and 50s black and whites were all being recolorized by
Mm-hmm.
TNT at some point. And
Yeah.
I don't know if this ever made that. Probably because
Ted
not.
Turner, that maniac. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like this. if they ever did colorize it, they'd be doing a disservice because the dark murkiness that occurs at the beginning and then again at the end of the film, just from a just from how they set up the art pieces there was really special. Um, and again, with the sweeping, like the high, super high strings that like make the hairs rise up on the back of your neck.
Mhm.
And like the ominous, just the beginning of it. I mean, this could have been the beginning of a Norman Bates movie, right? Where it's like, it's super scary, it's real dark, somebody's
Pretty dark, yeah.
dying. It's like, Rosebud. I mean, it could have been like a horror film for all we knew at the beginning, you know? Um,
Yeah,
and that's what makes
it
it so
pans up the
great.
gate, and it takes forever for it to pan up the gate. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, the shot construction, the set, all those things that got Oscars for. I mean, rightfully so. And like, it'd be interesting to go back to them because I mean, even to them, like, there had to have been like instances of this. So, art direction, cinematography, like the way the cinematography looked, like it had to have just been like so different and so unique. And like, how do you make heads or tails of it? Like, even if you're like way into that stuff. So I think that is really interesting. One of the things that I found interesting today in the year of 2026 is we went and saw this at the movie theater, and our showing was pretty well attended, which was nice, and it was really cool to see. I thought there were a bunch of people that were far older than us that were there. There were a bunch of people that were far younger than us. It seemed like a bunch of kids, probably that were about the same age as you and I would have been when we saw it. And I don't know if they were going to see it out of love of film or if they were aspiring filmmakers or film students in the area. But that was pretty cool to see, like, several, not like one like oddball like movie loving kid out there, but there were several like 20-year-old ish kids that were there seeing it, hopefully for the first time on the on the big screen there at the movie theater. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I thought that it was neat to see just like the multi like generational kind of viewing of this and the way like people responded to things, and were yeah gasping when he pulls out that letter from his friend, and gets that like zoom in there on his little note and stuff that he'd written, all that stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it was so cool to be able to see this in the big screen. I think it's a shame if you were going to watch this, if anybody was going to watch this for the first time, I definitely think watching it in a place where you can pay real attention to it.
or you can't have your phone is
You can't
probably.
have your phone. I mean, and it's a shame to say that because it seems like duh, like it's a movie, but I really feel like if you're gonna miss it, you're gonna miss out on it. The story itself is just amazing. Like the script is great, and I mean, we can talk about who actually wrote it and who got credit and all of that, but just the story of and the character development of Kane himself over time, and the fact that we're all just people and maybe no one really understands anybody because this journey of this journalist trying to figure out who was this person, and we see who he was at the beginning. They do a newsreel, we learn all the things that we need to know, and we see the
Mhm.
things in the film that we already know is happening. We already know that he tries to get into politics and totally loses. We
You
know
know
that
what
he
it, you know what
marries.
it, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me a lot. That was the first instance of thinking of another movie, and it's exactly the way Peter Jackson decided to start Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
with this 10-minute recap of everything you need to know about the history of what's about to happen.
Yep. 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 I mean, there's so many instances of that where like we're already told and then we forget somehow. The audience, I
Mhm.
mean, we were just told, right? But we have forgotten. So at the end, we're like, "Oh my gosh, like oh, she leaves him, he dies. What?" Like, and then it's like, "Oh yeah, this guy's been, we're reminded when the journalist goes from person to person, right? To see who, everybody thought that they had a piece of this person. I found it really psychologically stirring, as well, just because as a person gets older, this character of Kane, right? He loses the one person he thought he really loved, and the one thing that apparently was the last thing on his mind was something that no one but the audience will know what it is. And it's so chilling and sad, like that it was so simple and yet so complex. Like this guy had so much stuff. The
Hmm.
grandness of that set when there's so much stuff in that room and statues and the giant. It's in the same room as the uh, uh, all the puzzles and the giant fireplace and the stairs. Like this looks like these stairs from the Hearst Castle. It's not. I don't know
Hmm.
if they made them especially for this or what, but I mean, just the grandness at the end, and at the end of the day, none of that made him happy. None of that made him feel whole. There was only one thing that, like, at the end of his life, he was really aching for and longing for, and that is just
Hmm.
that the humanistic part of it, as well as all of the cinematic greatness. I think that that is also what makes this film so great because it's not only technically pretty flawless and groundbreaking, but it's also just this really amazing story.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Hearst, Penn, and that. you, you mentioned, and that's like the heartbreaking, like dramatic part of this. And you can look at him who had an unfortunate, kind of childhood upbringing. You can see like his like descent into this journey to build Xanadu as this, palatial temple for himself, basically, and all of his wealth here at the end of the film. And then that's the truly tragic part is we see what Rosebud is. Spoiler warning: Rosebud is a sled that he had when he was a kid. And you see it, and he had it, but he never knew. Like mentioned that he's going to go look through this stuff, but I don't think that he ever does. So he says that it's the last thing on his mind, and it was something that he had, right, just in this vast, unimaginable collection of stuff that he had accumulated over the course of his very wealthy life. So that's really interesting and tragic as well. William Randolph Hearst, if you ask anyone who was in charge of putting together Citizen Kane, they will deny apparently that this was based on William Randolph Hearst, but William Randolph Hearst apparently thought it was about him so much that he forbade any of his newspapers from advertising it or talking about it. So there you go. So you can draw any conclusions there. And while you're in California, go to Hearst Castle. It's very nice.
It is very nice. It's got a really big swimming pool. It doesn't have a
Is it
zoo.
as
I don't think
it is
there's
as
a
nice as
zoo.
Xanadu? I don't know. I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't, there are no sleds either because it's in California. But I
Mm-hmm.
will say, uh, yeah, it's interesting to me because it's not really, I mean, he's not really, well, for me, I don't think he was talking about the sled. Like what he wanted was that piece of his life
He
back,
wanted he
right?
wanted he wanted that he had that nostalgia hit that we get.
Yeah. It was like, oh, um, because it was just a symbol of, if he could go back and do things differently or like because he doesn't want to leave. Like at the beginning, his mother inherits a bunch of money and is trying to and I think it's for a good reason. She's trying to get him away from his dad, but he didn't want to leave. And what 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 trajectory his life would have been if he had stayed? Would he have been happier, even though he didn't build this entire um, conglomerate of stuff and palace?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll never know, and neither will
We'll
he.
never
Um,
know. Neither will he. Neither will anyone else.
Neither will
1941,
anyone
because it
else.
just it just burns. They leave, and that's it. So you're left, I guess, with the inside knowledge there of Citizen Kane as it comes to an end. Um, so Michaela, I think we've kind of talked about Citizen Kane, all the things that are great about it. Let's um just take a second, why don't you, and just tell us what it was like just watching it again this year. Maybe just a quick compare and contrast watching it at 20 to watching it today, to watching it with the lens of, we've talked about 276 ish movies now, I guess. So with the lens of, being the movie lover that you are, of, thinking about movies perhaps a little bit more analytically than you did, maybe even than you did at the time you would have watched this the first time. Just any parting thoughts here as we close out Citizen Kane?
Yeah, there's no argument from me that this is definitely one of the greatest films ever made. It's I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, seeing it now. I definitely think that the 25-ish years of experience and seeing it the first time really helped me appreciate it better. And I think that that's one of the reasons why it has stood that test of time too is that it grows. I mean, it grows with you, or you grow with the film. When you're young, you're not really paying attention to the things that you should perhaps, and neither was Kane, right? When he was
Mhm.
young, it was all about something else. There's so many layers to this that you could watch and watch and watch, and you could watch it with a technical eye, and you could watch it with a like a from a music and score creation eye. You could see this from like a technology and like hair and makeup and costuming eye. You can see this from the story itself and the script writing. And in every single one of those points of view and those expertise that a person might have, you're going to find something brilliant. And I think that that is truly what makes this a film rather than a movie, but also makes it one of the best because whatever whatever filter you're looking at this film in, you're going to find greatness. And that's really, really special. And that's probably why it's on the list. Um, so that's my hot take.
That,
So
that's
what,
that.
276-ish movies in. That's it.
There,
What about
there you
you?
go. Yeah, no, I mean, I watched it the first time, and obviously, watching it in the through the lens of watching it in like a film class, and kind of stopping it, or at least having like bullet points on like certain shots or certain scenes and why they're important and how they've been copied and mimicked over the last 85 years, is something. But yeah, I was really surprised watching it this past week at the movie theater, like how much I just enjoyed watching it. Like I said, because both sides of my brain were firing at all ends, but just like the compelling like narrative that it was. And I've seen some of like the more critical reviews. Like you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who is talking, with any sort of like good faith that would say that this is bad. But any like of the negatives say that it kind of falls apart in the last act. And I disagree because I think that the last act for me is really where it kind of comes together, right? He goes and he talks to the second wife finally. He tries to do that earlier in the film, and he's able to go in and speak to her kind of at the end, and then we see, kind of the mass accumulation of things over Orson Welles' life as you're standing with this group of people who have spent the entirety of this movie and like in some instances like their entire lives like trying to figure out who this man was, and it's just buried in this a pile of stuff that he surrounded himself with, and you can get all like psychoanalytical about why someone would do that, and what depths you go to and where you go, because it's really like a journey of Kane then in that sense, who kind of starts out and takes over the newspaper like on a whim because he thinks it's going to be fun, he thinks it's going to be good, and he can do good in the world, and like how that turns with wealth and power turns into this whole other thing. uh there's really interesting. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I was surprised at how much, I knew I was going to like it and be able to like to analyze, certain things in the movie, and, be wowed by uh some of the shots that they were able to achieve, and think about how they were able to achieve them, or how you even think about like constructing the movie that way. But yeah, just is pretty magical to see, I think. So yeah, so I guess that's Citizen Kane. So if you've not seen it, please go to it. If it might still be playing at your theater here for another week or two. I don't know how long it's going to be showing here for the 85th anniversary, but if you have a chance to do that, it's well worth the price of your tickets to go do that, or check it out. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. And yeah, just think about all the movies that you love, and I guarantee there will be something that you see in Citizen Kane that reminds you exactly of that movie. So I think that's going to go ahead and wrap it up here for this one. Let us know if you've seen Citizen Kane lately. Let us know if you watched it for some movie class, theater, film class you were in back in high school or college. Let us know if you've seen it recently, and let us know if you make a Rosebud cocktail to have while you're taking it in. You can do any of that stuff on our social media. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of the cocktails we're making, episode recaps, the cocktail recipes, all that stuff can be found on our website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. And one of those links you're going to find is to Patreon, patreon.com/drinkthemovies. Over there, we have bonus content, hangouts, cocktail chats, all sorts of stuff. We love our patrons so much. They make Drink the Movies happen. So thank you. And a special shout out to them. Michaela, we've got a lot of fun stuff coming on. We just talked about a movie that's 85 years old, one of the great films of all time. Next week, we're going to be talking about a new film that's a remake of a 10-year-old film. And we'll talk all about that, I'm sure. Citizen Kane, or not. We'll see. Maybe it inspired the live action Moana. I don't know. Time will tell. Michaela, where can people follow along with what we have going on the pod?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We do 2 drops a week here at Drink the Movies. If you're interested in anything going on at the box office, including what's coming out from a series perspective, you can join us for our lobby bar where we make a cocktail anyone even you can make. We do a deep dive like the one you just heard here, where we talk about old movies, new movies, good movies, bad movies, all of that in between, with a cocktail to pay homage to it as well. If any of you are even remotely interested in video games, you should go check out Drink the Video Games. Brian does an amazing job talking about all the things. I pop in for a cocktail. It's a really good time. It's very educational. My son is now is now learning about the history of video games through Drink the Video Games. So check it out. It's a
All
really
right.
cool time.
Excellent. All right, man. I'll steer them on the right path to some good games, hopefully. So, thank you so much for that plug. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone who has taken the time to talk about Citizen Kane with us today. Like I said, drop us a line. Let us know what you think about Citizen Kane, and we'll talk to you next week on
Drink
Drink
the
the
movies.
Movies. Say Rosebud. I feel it's too obvious. Although we
It's
did
too
start with
obvious.
Rosebud, so
We did.
you got to do the
Um,
bookend.
mm, Rosebud. Dun dun dun. Yeah.